So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Solopreneur to CEO Mindshift workshop. We're thrilled that you are here today with us to learn about growing your thinking to grow your business. So thank you so much for being a part of this day with us. We'll make sure that everybody's on mute just so that we don't interrupt the recording, but I absolutely love the enthusiasm. We are enthusiastic as you are about the start of today. So welcome. My name is Carrie, and I am the community leader for the Grow to Lead Network for Women Entrepreneurs. And many of you know that this formerly was with Queen's University. And once that program finished, we have actually launched this brand new community as a part of a very exciting new project and new endeavor. So welcome. As we're getting started, I would love to give you an overview of where we're headed today. And while I'm doing that, why not take a moment to introduce yourself in the Zoom chat? Say hello. Tell us where you're connecting from. What's your business? Do you have a link that you want to share with us? If so, we would absolutely love to see and learn a little bit more about what you're up to in your corner of the world. So here's what's ahead today. I'm going to, of course, introduce you in a moment to my co-host, Cheyenne O'Driscoll, who's hanging out there as well in the gallery. But as we take a look at the pathway of where we're heading today, what we're going to start with is defining some terms. So we're going to talk about solopreneurship. What is it? And we'll find out who in the room identifies as a solopreneur, and of course, what that means for falling into what we call the solopreneur trap very oftentimes. We're then going to talk about a solution to that, which is the CEO shift framework. And so this is something that we've developed, which has been really useful for both Cheyenne and myself, because we also are solopreneurs just like you. We're going to make sure that today is as interactive as possible. So unless you're driving or operating heavy machinery, we absolutely would love to have you participate in the Zoom chat with us on the growth ceiling exercise and some of the other questions that we're going to toss out from time to time. And we'll also have time at the end for you to come off mute and ask some questions. And when that happens, we are looking for your insights as well as questions you might have. We're going to make sure we end up with some resources and tools. And I want to stress that today we are getting started. Today, we're not going to absolve all of the issues that are associated with being a solopreneur, of course. Today, though, is an amazing opportunity for us to kick things off. And so those resources and tools are going to lead us in a great direction. And like I mentioned, we'll end up with a Q&A session as well at the end. So welcome, everyone. Thanks to those who are introducing themselves in the Zoom chat. If you have not yet done so, please go ahead. Tell us where you're connecting from. What's your business? And if you even want to drop us a link, we'd love to learn a little bit more about that. So as I mentioned, I'm Carrie, and I am the community leader for the Grow to Lead Network for Women Entrepreneurs. I'm also the founder of the Fresh Idea Collective. Now, Fresh Idea Collective is based in Stratford, Ontario, whereas the Grow to Lead Network has its hub in the Kingston-Quinte area, which is actually where I'm originally from. But you don't have to be in the Kingston, Stratford, Quinte area to be a part of what we're talking about today. I want to stress that, and we're going to give you plenty of opportunity to find out ways that you connect even beyond this call. Cheyenne, go ahead, introduce yourself. I'm so thrilled that you're here to co-present today.
Thanks, Carrie. The chat is just hopping. It's so exciting to see the energy in the space. So my name is Cheyenne. I know quite a few on the call. I've been very privileged to connect with a lot of you through WeCan or through business networks in the Bay of Quinte area. I have my own business called CEO Marketing, and I'm now having an incredible honor to step into this new role of the program lead for Grow to Lead Network. I'm incredibly excited about everything Carrie and I have been working on, and we can't wait to present this to you today. In my own business, I help small businesses grow revenue through marketing strategies and systems that support and strengthen local economies. I'm all about local, and I'm all about community. Thanks, Carrie.
All right, fantastic. So welcome. For those just joining us, and while Cheyenne was doing that, I was just checking because you saw that a new Zoom link went out today, and inevitably a couple people don't get it. So welcome to them as they join us on the call. So let's start with this question. And I want you to think about it in terms of yourself and your own business. And that is, what does it mean to be a solopreneur? I want you to drop a word or two in the Zoom chat that might be coming up for you. Cheyenne, I'll get you to help me out with that monitoring perhaps. What does that mean to be a solopreneur? And by the way, in no way, shape, or form are we suggesting that being a solopreneur is a negative thing. So Cheyenne and I are both solopreneurs. We are companies of one. We love it. But we also know that there are some challenges that come along with being a solopreneur. So here are three of the terms that came up for us, and then we'll see what the group is saying in the group chat as well about what it means to be a solopreneur. The first word that comes to mind is self-led. So how many of you in the morning, you put your feet on the ground and you realize, oh, it's up to me. This business is not advancing unless I come up with the strategies, unless I come up with the plan. It's really up to me to lead myself. And that is a huge skill set, in fact, but it is a part of being a solopreneur. Then another word that comes to mind or a phrase is multi-hyphenate. How many of you are the front end of your business? You're the back end of your business. You're the IT person. You are the marketer. You're the bookkeeper. You're the person who shows up to networking events. You are doing all of the things. And in fact, as you think about that question, when I was thinking about this idea of being a multi-hyphenate, I was thinking of one of my favorite movies of all time, which is The Proposal, which is now a classic, of course, two of my favorite actors. But what is interesting about the movie The Proposal is that while Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock were the main characters, it was this guy who stole the show. Now, for those of you who have seen the movie, you'll know that this is Ramon. Ramon in the movie, once Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds arrived in Sitka, Alaska, they found out Ramon was the waiter. He was the male entertainer. He was the minister. He was also the shopkeeper. He just popped up in all these different places in Sitka, Alaska. And it was just hilarious. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. If not, that's your required viewing for the weekend. But how many of you drop the word Ramon into the Zoom chat if you can identify with that idea of being everywhere all the time? And of course, there's only one of you. For me, that's what being a multi-hyphenate amounts to. You wear so many hats that it's almost hilarious at times. In fact, it becomes comedic, doesn't it? So the third word that I want to mention as well when it comes to solopreneur is independent. And frankly, this is a reason why a lot of us are solopreneurs. We actually enjoy this idea of setting our own hours, working with the types of clients that we've dreamed with working, creating the kind of business that works for the lifestyle that we want to develop. So these are just three words that come to mind. Cheyenne, are there any other words in the Zoom chat maybe that you want to share? I'd love to hear some thoughts.
There's a lot about juggling everything. One of my favorite they came up was a Jane of all trades. Grit, resiliency, overwhelm came up quite a bit.
Yeah.
All Ramones, we do see that visionary, diverse. Yeah, really great content in the chat here.
Love it. So again, there is nothing wrong with being a solopreneur. Let me stress that. But there is definitely something that we call the solopreneur trap. And so as I explain this a little bit further, I want you to look and see if you spot yourself in any of these scenarios. The first one we've already hit the nail on the head, which is doing everything yourself. We know what happens when that occurs, and that is exhaustion. That can be overwhelm. And sometimes things slip, how things fall through the cracks. We just came through tax season, and a lot of the clients that I coach realized, oh my gosh, I should have been paying attention. But when you are everything, all the parts of the business, that can, slip through the cracks. Another part of being falling into the solopreneur trap is reactive decision making. I mentioned, waking up in the morning. A lot of people don't say, well, this is what my plan is for today. They just look at their inbox and react to their inbox or react to the messages on social media. And that sets the tone for their day. So at the end of their day, they're like, wait a minute, how did I get here? That's not where I wanted to be. And so again, if you can relate to that, let us know in the Zoom chat. And by the way, I'm not saying anything that hasn't happened to me before directly. Revenue that's tied directly to your effort. In other words, you're trading time for money. And as a solopreneur, we know what happens, and that is we only have so many hours in a day. So if we are making money based on our time, that means we can only reach a certain level and we max out unless we raise our prices, of course. But when we have revenue tied directly to effort, it can put us into solopreneur trap because we're not considering other ways of bringing in revenue that actually requires far less effort. And finally, we experience that overwhelm. And even today, when we're talking about growth, because the Grow to Lead network for women entrepreneurs is about growth, it's about growing and leading. So sometimes when I say the word growth, some people actually, kind of give a shiver down their spine. They're like, why would I want to grow any further? Can't even manage what I'm doing now. But the fact is that if we're not growing, we're stagnant. And we all know what it's like to walk past a stagnant pond. There's mosquitoes hovering, and there's sort of this smell that none of us are really invited to go any further. But if you're a part of a flowing river, right, where there's growth and there's activity, we know that that's a much healthier state to be in. So I would challenge today that growth is actually a natural part of having a business. It's the type of growth that you're building that matters. And so that's what we're going to talk about further today. So what happens here is that when you become the bottleneck, right, or the dam in that river, you don't own that business anymore. That business owns you. And that's not always a fun thing to be experiencing. So that's the scenario of the solopreneur trap. That's the reality of it. And feel free to put up your reaction button or drop a note into that Zoom chat if you have experienced any of those. I have a feeling it's just not me and Cheyenne. This is actually what has precipitated and really been the catalyst for today's workshop. Because what we realized in a lot of the masterminds that she and I have been a part of and a lot of conversations is that we need to start thinking like a CEO if we are to get out of this solopreneur trap. And so that's what we're going to talk about further today. Speaking of CEO, this is always a fun place to pause as well, because when we say the word CEO, there are certain things that come to mind. Some of you are on this call today thinking, I don't want to be a CEO. I'm not sure that that's even for me, because you have certain concepts of what a CEO is. So why don't you use that Zoom chat again? We're going to keep you busy. What comes to mind when you hear the term CEO or the acronym CEO, which stands for Chief Executive Officer, of course. Cheyenne, maybe you can read out some of those to us as well.
Some assuming there's a team reporting to them, Chief Everything Officer, having employees, leader, CEO is a boss, boring wall colors, very formal setting, 100% responsibility, managing people in command, decision maker, visionary, really, really great stuff coming through.
Yeah. For me, I chose this picture of this woman on a private jet because when I think of a CEO, I think of somebody who's very well groomed. She is all together. Everything's expensive. She's been handed that cup of coffee by an executive assistant. She definitely did not ground those beans herself. And in fact, when I had this conversation with another woman recently, she said, you know what? When I think of a CEO, I think of a white man in a suit. And so a lot of women don't realize that being at your dining room table or your home office, your basement office, your co-working space, wherever it is that you are running your business, does not make you ineligible to be a CEO. CEO is not about all the trappings, all of the peripheral visual cues. And in fact, a lot of people, I think, look like CEOs because they want to step into that status, but actually it's about being a lot more than just what we showed in them and some of those perceptions we have. So Cheyenne is actually going to get into what a CEO is. Go ahead, Cheyenne.
So I really appreciate that Carrie brings that forward for us. I can see in the chat, a lot of us identify CEO as that first picture, when in reality, it really is that second picture. And imposter syndrome is such a huge part of the piece we need to break through to be able to move into being a CEO. So what a CEO actually is, it's not about jetting away to high-stake business meetings. It's someone who leads with vision and long-term strategy. We know where we're headed, and that's what we lead the business with. Carrie's got to move the slides for me. So we're figuring it out as we go. Being a CEO is also someone who focuses on growth, opportunity, and decision makings. We're not focused on the tactical level. We're making sure that our job, when we put on that CEO hat, is growth and opportunities. And we know that a big part of the role that we play is the decisions that we're going to be making in the business. A CEO is someone who takes time to work on the business, not just in it. I know this is a huge one for a lot of us, especially most of us are solopreneurs. Even if you have a small team, it takes a lot to keep the business running. But as a CEO, we're going to make time to be working on the business instead of just in it. And it's someone who delegates, prioritizes, and builds sustainable systems. We can be very guilty of being hyper independent and thinking we can do it all and we should do it all. As we move into being a CEO, we want to start delegating, prioritizing, and building systems that support us instead of us running around like chickens with our heads cut off. And being a CEO is someone who thinks like a leader, regardless of the business size or title. In the chat, there's so many of us see CEOs as someone who has a team, someone who has people answering to them, someone who has a large business. That's not the reality. We can operate as a CEO, even as a company of one or as a large company. We are the leader regardless of the business size or the title that we carry. So the big tool we have to deliver today is called the CEO Shift Framework. And this is a huge part of what the Grow to Lead network is designed around. We have a lot of exciting things that Carrie's going to talk to us about towards the end, all about helping us move through this CEO Shift Framework. I'm going to break down the 5 pillars of it now. We're going to start identifying where we're at, and we have a ton more to come that's going to help us move through each of these pillars. So what is the CEO Shift Framework? It's a 5-part framework that's all about moving as solopreneurs through a bunch of transitions. I really love the expression, what got us here won't get us there. A lot of how we approach our business at the start, it's such an important piece for that stage of business. And now as we want to grow, we need to lead ourselves into a different direction. This is what the Shift Framework is designed to help us do. It's going to help us move from operator to strategist. It's going to help us go from being in the business and delivering the things and creating the products and services to having time to sit down with the strategy and to lead with that. It's going to help us move from busy, which I know we all have been busy. If busy is what you associate business with, drop a me in the chat. I know for me, when I think of my business, I think of just being incredibly busy. Instead, we want to, I see all the me's. Instead, we want to move to being intentional. We are no longer going to serve ourselves and our business growth by just constantly filling up our calendar. Instead, we need to start getting very intentional about where our time, our energy, and our budgets are going. We're going to move from income chasing to profit planning. Money is such an important part of this, and getting comfortable in commanding our money is a huge piece of this. When we first start, we're bringing in whatever money we can. Often an opportunity shows up that's going to bring revenue. We chase that. As we move into operating as a CEO, it's all about profit planning. We know our margins, we know where it's coming from, and we are aiming and focusing on our profit. We're also going to move from control to leadership. Sometimes it feels like your business is completely out of control. Drop a me in the chat. If you feel like you are desperately trying to hold tightly to all the moving parts and you're just there to get as much control over everything as you can, and usually it ends up out of control, that's what it looks like at the beginning stages when we're operating in that solopreneur trap. We're going to move into leadership. We're going to step out of the business and work on it. And we're going to build systems and supports that allow us to lead instead of desperately trying to control all of the moving pieces. So here are the 5 pillars of our CEO Shift Framework. These are the parts of our business we want to apply ourselves to, and we want to develop new mindsets and skill sets in. The first is strategy. The second is hiring. The third is infrastructure. The fourth is finance. And the fifth is tracking. We have a lot of really incredible resources coming up to help us dive into these. I'm going to give you the overview of all of them so you can start identifying Where am I maybe holding myself back from? And where do I want to take me and my business instead? So our first is strategy. I really love strategy. My mind loves this. This is a superpower in business. If you get the strategy right, all of the effort and energy you pour into everything you're doing, marketing, I'm a marketing consultant, it's a big piece. Every single piece that you do gives you ROI. If you don't build your strategy, you can waste your time, your energy, and your budget. When we start moving into this pillar as a CEO, it's about moving from being reactive to intentional. Like Carrie was mentioning earlier, we don't want to just be responding to what's popping up in our world. We want to be intentional with the way we're moving and the decisions we're making. What it looks like in action when we step into this pillar as a CEO, it's things like having a documented 12-month direction. Drop a me in the chat if you know you should have some kind of annual plan, a business plan, a marketing plan, but you don't. This is the reality for most of us. It's very hard to justify it when we're so busy scrambling. This is the shift we want to make. It's also about having things like 3 quarterly priorities, knowing what we are going to be accountable for at the end of 3 months for if we've moved it forward or why it hasn't. It's also, almost most importantly, having a clear list of what you say no to. We need to become highly discerning and highly intentional. And that means we have a list of things that are like, that's not a fit for me. It's on my no list. As you start moving into this piece of the shift framework and you move into the strategy pillar, as a CEO, the question you're going to ask yourself is, where am I taking this business in the next year? You need to know where you're headed so that you can take the right steps to get there. Second part is hiring. And I want us to be mindful that even if we're not hiring employees, I know a lot of us are solopreneurs. Carrie's mentioned her and I are both solopreneurs. This also means contracting. Anybody that you bring in to support your business, it's a form of hiring. So this is about moving from doing it all to building leverage. Leverage is a very important focus we need to have as we grow our businesses. What this looks like from when we're taking action on this is making sure that first hire buys back our time instead of replaces our zone of genius. We want to make sure we're being careful that our time is getting freed up so we can do the CEO level work we need to do. It's also about hiring for strategy instead of symptoms. I know sometimes business can be very stressful. There can be things that are overwhelming or it's in a lull. That's a symptom. If we go to scramble to hire in that kind of place, it's usually a bad hire. Instead, as a CEO, we're going to look at our strategy and we're going to understand the kind of support we need to bring in. And that's what it looks like to hire for strategy. As you move into this pillar of hiring as a CEO, the question you're going to ask is, what am I doing that someone else probably should be, dependent on your strategy? Our third pillar is infrastructure. This is all about moving from chaos to systems. Drop a me in the chat if chaos is the name of the game. If you feel like business is just all of this craziness and all of these moving parts, and you're just the wrangler of chaos. Anyone who has kids, it kind of feels like that, or trying to herd cats. That is actually a really important skill set. I'm going to call it a skill set. I'm a chaos wrangler myself. The capacity to operate in that is very important when we start. Now we want to move beyond it and we want to start building structure and systems into the business. Yeah, 2 small kids. Yes, right? Chaos is, we're amazing at wrangling it, but we want to start building structure so that we don't have to have that kind of energy drain in our system, in our businesses. What this look like in action? This is SOPs, automations, and client journeys. So this is having standard operating procedures, having things documented and mapped out. This is what's going to let the business run without you injected into every single step. We need this to hire. We need this to automate. We need to build these systems to be able to take ourselves out of being the person doing everything in the business. When you start to move into this pillar of infrastructure, your question you're going to ask yourself as a CEO is, what only works because it lives in my mind? If anybody here would be able to say everything only works because it lives in my mind, put a me in the chat. I know I have certainly been there where the only reason my business exists is because my mind is constantly applied to it. Yeah, lots of me's. Our fourth pillar is finance. And as women, I'm known for giving my revenue. I like to share that openly. We need to get much more comfortable with our numbers, with commanding numbers, with relating to numbers. This is an opportunity for us to have economic sovereignty. In moving into being a CEO, it's all about making the shift of focusing on revenue to profit. Revenue is great. It's what gets the feet underneath us. It's what makes us know the business is viable. Now we really want to focus on profit, which means in action, we need to know our margins, not just our top lines. We have some really great community resources aligned to help us do this monthly together with a KPI review. These type of things are baked into the membership of Grow to Lead. It's also about paying yourself like a CEO, not a freelancer. And I want us to be mindful. I know we're all in different stages. If you don't have the revenue or the profit to do that yet, that's okay. What you want to know is this is where you're headed. This is the plan that you have as you grow your business. That's why it's Grow to Lead. We're leading our businesses and we're leading ourselves. When you move into this pillar of finance as a CEO, the question you're going to ask yourself is, am I building a business or am I buying myself a job? I'm known for using the word jobby, which is a job and a hobby combined. And quite often, one of the pieces of the Solopreneur Trap is that what we've actually done is created ourselves a jobby where ideally we get paid to do something we like. We need to decide, am I buying myself a job, or is this about building a business? T is tracking. This is our final pillar. I'm a big fan of data. I think it is such a power position to take. This is all about moving from feeling to knowing. As women, our intuition and our gut instincts, hugely powerful. There's definitely a lot of unconscious data in there. We want to be able to layer on top of that data that we're collecting, which means we need to be tracking our numbers. What this looks like in action, it's things like KPIs over vanity metrics. Vanity metrics are very much about reach and visibility. They make us feel good, and it's a lot of social media stuff. We don't want to focus on those. We want to focus on our key performance indicators. The metrics that are showing us, are we progressing towards the goals we set? It's also about making decisions made from data, not drama. We all know business is like this. One day you're on the top of the world. The next day things are not working and you're on Indeed. There's a lot of drama to business. It's part of the roller coaster. We don't want to make our decisions from that drama, which means we need to track and collect the data so our decisions can come from that kind of place. How did you get my search history? It's my search history too. That's why. We've all been there. There's so much commonalities in this. So as we move into tracking into this pillar, it's all about asking yourself the CEO question of, how will I know if this is working? Not will I feel it? How am I going to tell if the efforts and energy I am putting into place is actually working and helping me progress towards my goals? So these are our 5 pillars. We have a lot of really cool stuff coming up that's going to help us move forward in these pillars. I'm so excited for Carrie to share them with you later. Right now, I want you to get ready to drop in the chat which one of these feels like your biggest bottleneck, like which one is the one that's maybe holding you back. So we have S for strategy, H for hiring, I for infrastructure, F for finance, and T for tracking. It can be all of them. That is perfectly normal and perfectly okay. These are the things we want to be mindful of, knowing that we can target these pillars. We can move forward with them, and we're not left to be reactive. We can be intentional with investing in our mindsets and our skill sets with them. Carrie's going to take it from here. Lots of stuff in the chat. I love it.
Oh, yeah. I'm seeing a lot of myself in that chat as well. And by the way, you're not alone, as you can see. I think that's one of the most powerful things about these types of gatherings is that a lot of us on our own, isolated as solopreneurs in our home office, think it's just me. It's not just you. It's just a part of being a solopreneur. So I hope that at least you feel seen today. And the good news is that there are some definite ways for us to manage this, and together we can do that together in community. So let's focus now on a bit of a growth ceiling exercise. So a growth ceiling is sort of one of those things that we bump our heads up against every now and then, or perhaps every day, that says you're growing this far and no further. And sometimes it's unconscious, and sometimes we feel it because we hit our head hard. And so there's three questions that I want to get you to think about. If you happen to be in a place where you're able to jot down some notes on a piece of paper, back of a napkin, again, if you're not driving, then let's take some time to think about these next three questions, which relate to our growth ceiling. The first question is, what do you want to grow in your business in the next 6 months? We have called this network the Grow to Lead Network for women entrepreneurs. But what are we growing? Here's the thing. You are an independent business owner. You get to decide what it is you're growing. Although I'm going to give you some thoughts about which stage of business you're in and what you might consider growing. And again, you might feel seen when I mention some of this. But if you feel bold and brave enough to share with us in the Zoom chat, tell us, what is it that you want to grow in the next 6 months? So if you are there's basically three stages of business that we talk about: early stage, growth stage, and scale up stage. So if you are in your early stage of business, less than 2 years, let's say, and maybe you're still working on getting that first sale, or, the first 10 sales, you likely are working on visibility and your voice. So what is my business? What's the voice of my business? What do I stand for? What are my values, my mission, all of that? And also, how can I get seen, right? Early stage, we're figuring things out. For growth stage businesses, you're looking for those stable structures and systems. And that's why when we're talking today about moving from solopreneur to CEO, it's very much a growth stage movement. Okay, so anyone in early stage, you feel like you're scrambling right now with any of the content, I want you to recognize this is definitely a growth stage move. But what you're hearing today is preparing you, is getting you ready, and it's moving you, I would say, even more quickly than some of us who took a long time to figure this out. So if you're in that growth stage, you're probably looking at growing things like systems and structures. If you are in your scale up phase, you're probably looking to grow that influence and your impact, right? You're positioning yourself as an authority in your field. You're making sure that you have those leadership values and skills so that you're able to make even more of an impact. So go ahead, Cheyenne, read out a few of the things that perhaps people are aiming to grow in their business in the next 6 months.
A lot about profit and revenue, which I love to
Love
see.
that.
Outreach to new clients, fulfilling types of projects. I love seeing that one. Getting the business known and revenue, more clients, community engagement, profit, revenue. I love seeing the systems, data collection. Yeah, lots of really good stuff.
Fantastic. Okay, so that's the first part of the growth ceiling exercise. Now that we know what we want to grow, and by the way, it's up to you to decide that, what is currently limiting your growth? This is a time for us to reflect. Once we get off this call, we're not going to reflect. We're going to go back to our busy lives. So now is the moment to ask ourselves, if I'm honest with myself, what is limiting my growth? Cheyenne, let me throw it to you. And by the way, if you're bold enough to answer that in the Zoom chat, we would love to see it. Cheyenne, is there something that has limited your growth, would you say, that you would be vulnerable enough to share with us?
100%. I'm in the moment, in the middle of it right now. I have three sick kids at home. When I first started building my business, I was a newly single mom of three, 4, 6, and 8, and it was COVID. So school was no longer a thing. That was definitely a limiting factor when I first started to grow.
Yeah, for me, I would say what was limiting my growth was boundary setting, a lack of boundary setting. I was all things to all people. I was, whenever they wanted me to show up, I was doing the opposite of what you said earlier. I was saying yes to everything, and it was limiting my growth because I could not focus on what the priorities were to move the dial. And so I've learned that lesson now. Do you want to share maybe some of the thoughts that are coming up in the Zoom chat?
A lot about capacity, lack of time and funds, some mindset pieces, cash to get started, that need to do everything yourself, health and energy, clarity around your offers, production and distribution.
Love it. Okay, so thanks for those honest shares as well. Maybe you see yourself in that Zoom chat as well. And feel free, you can continue to add to that if you like. So, the first part of the growth ceiling exercise is, what do I want to grow? Now, what is limiting my growth? And so, the third part, I just want you to start stretching your thinking. How would a CEO respond differently to what you just said? If that limit was there, how would a CEO react to that? So, Cheyenne, I'll throw it back to you. In your scenario with the three kids and those challenges, how would a CEO respond differently than perhaps saying, well, I guess I'm not doing any business this entire week? And hey, let's be honest, there are times when we do take a little break, we have to. But, how would you then reconfigure or reframe that?
This was a huge shift I had to make myself, was recognizing that I wanted this business. So even though my circumstances looked different or were overwhelming at times, I had control over my schedule. So my kids get off school at 2. My whole thing was being present with my kids. I took that time off. I had no meetings. I had no work schedule, but I worked in the evenings and I worked in the weekends because that's what worked for me. And I knew I had the agency to do that.
Yeah. And even now, I know Cheyenne will be working on the weekends and she'll be emailing me. I'll be like, why are you working? It's the weekend. And I'm like, no, no. In Cheyenne's world, she has reconfigured her schedule and it's not a bad thing. She has other time that she takes off. For me, thinking differently about that boundary setting issue, it was blocking time in my calendar. Because if I did not block sacred time, that again, if my boss said this meeting was happening, I'm going to show up to that meeting, or I'm going to show up to what I promised myself I would. So it's really looking at my calendar through the eyes of, you know what, this is not a negotiable. This I must show up for my own 1 hour CEO hour, every month that Cheyenne's going to talk about later, because that's what a CEO does. Right. I don't know if there's any other responses that you want to share in the Zoom chat there. Anyone, you don't have to share this part because I know it's a little bit more thinking, but are there any responses there that you want to share?
There's a couple around focusing on immediate revenue generation, choosing shows that are more worth my time, more buying customers, more focus on networking, collaborating, and visibility growth. So a lot of visibility and a
Wonderful.
lot of conscious choices.
Yeah. And so some of this is not something you're going to answer immediately because this is a process of shifting some thinking. So Cheyenne's actually now going to talk to us about next level thinking. And that's what it means to put on the CEO hat.
Sometimes
So
today, one thing can slow the entire assembly. This challenge
I'll
shows up
let
in
you.
handle that pressure.
I'm not sure where that was. Okay. Everyone, just make sure you're muted. Thanks.
It's Loki, Loki is what I'm seeing on my screen. Okay. So next level thinking is so crucial. There is a truth that everything is created twice, once in our minds and once in reality. So that business that you want to grow into, we need to first create it in our heads. And then we need to make decisions and actions that align with that so that we can be in the middle of it in a year or however long your vision is. There's 4 pieces we're going to break down and we're going to dive into around this concept of next level thinking. We're going to talk about vision-based decision making. This is all about making sure the choices we're making are in alignment with that long-term vision that we have. It's also about capacity planning. We're seeing a lot of conversation in the chat about capacity. So it's about moving into being mindful and planning for the realities of our capacity. Say as a single mom of 3, this has been one of the skills I've had to develop the most. It's also about building support before burnout, not letting ourselves get to the point where we're drained and we're curled up on the couch with Netflix and some Cheetos before we look for support. It's doing it before that. It's also about acting strategically versus reactively. This is a thread throughout everything where we start becoming very intentional instead of reacting to what's coming at us. We are making our choices and planning our days and our schedule based on the strategy that we have that's going to help us get to our long-term vision. So when we talk about next level thinking, it's really about basing your decisions on the business you're building, not the one you're running. We don't want to be anchored into what's here immediately and only make choices based on that. There's a really great book called The E-Myth. The author is Michael Gerber. He's the one behind that saying of working on the business, not in it. This is what it means. When you work on the business, you're making choices from the business you're building, from that vision. When you're working in the business, you're making choices based on the one you're currently running. We want to move beyond that. So for vision-based decision making, this is about accepting that we are not superhuman. There is not 12 of us to go around. My kids know I quite often say, I wish I could clone myself. But the reality is every yes is a no to something else. There's only so much time in our schedule, energy in our systems, and budgets in our bank accounts. So everything that we allocate to one thing is something we're saying no to as another option. When we start making this kind of when we're making vision-based decision making, it's about filtering opportunities through your 3-year vision, not your current skill set or comfort zone. Drop a me in the chat if you've said yes to something that was speaking in front of a room or something that made you uncomfortable, that was going to force you to stretch because you knew it would help your business go further. That's vision-based decision making. It's what we want to be doing. We don't want to say no because it's uncomfortable right now. We want to say yes when it allows us to step into that vision. It's also about knowing when it's not an obvious yes, it's a no. When we have our vision in mind, we know the things that are going to align with it. And if we have an opportunity that arises and it's not an obvious yet, it goes on the no list. It's easy to decide. Yeah, Karuz uses this all the time. She reminds us quite frequently, and we appreciate it. Solopreneurs are great at spotting opportunities. It's one of our superpowers. We look at things, we see things differently than others. When we move from solopreneur to CEO, we have to add on a layer of discernment. Now we need to become really great at filtering the opportunities through the vision that we have for our business. Capacity planning, I see us in the chat. We're women, we're doing all of the things. We've got kids, we've got parents, we've got community. Some of us are doing this on the side. Our capacity is real. We can't ignore it, which means we don't want 100% of our time going to delivery. If we do that, we can't grow. We need time and space to focus on this next level thinking. When you put this into action, you want to do things like planning to 60 to 70% of your capacity. You fill up your calendar, but you leave buffer. All of your days, all of your work hours, all of your energy is not spent on execution. You're not planning to 100%. And I am very, very guilty of this. This is a lesson I've had to learn over the last couple of years, and I'm not perfect by any means. It means that the other 30 to 40%, that's going to give you the time, space, and budget you need to make the next quarter and the next year possible. If you don't have time to invest in what you're building in the future, it will never happen. We need to plan for that capacity. As solopreneurs, we tend to fill up our calendar. Drop a me if you've ever had one of those weeks where you got to the end of it and you're like, oh my gosh, I did not stop. It's been constant. I'm not really sure what happened. I just know that my whole day has been filled and I'm absolutely exhausted by the time I get to the end of it. As CEOs, we want to start protecting our calendar. We want to start giving ourselves buffer and breathing space so we have time to take on the CEO activities, which we have a really great resource called the CEO Time Map that's going to break down yearly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily, the type of activities we want to do so we have this time to be a CEO. We also want to build support before burnout. This was another difficult lesson for myself as a single mom. I just do all the things. I just, pull deeper, dig deeper, and I do more. But we don't want to be caught in that trap. What we want to be thinking about is that the right time to hire is when you can still think clearly about it. If we allow ourselves to get depleted, we just don't have the cognitive energy to make smart choices. So you want to bring in help when you're at 70%, not at 110. You don't want to be putting out emergencies. Burnout hires are bad hires, whether it's an employee or contractor, whoever you're bringing in to help Yeah, and buffers in the schedule. I see the chat. I love it. Burnout hires are going to be something that's very reactive instead of something intentional. And what happens is, as solopreneurs, we tend to hire to survive. We're like, I can't make this happen, or sales aren't coming in. So, this isn't working. This is exhausting. And so we're just trying to survive. And those aren't smart hiring approaches. Instead, as CEOs, we want to hire to scale. We look at what our strategy is and what's going to help us move to the next level rather than what's just going to help us survive. Excuse me. Acting strategically versus reactively. This is the theme of all of this. It's about understanding that decisions in your inbox are reactions. Drop a me in the chat if you've ever been in your inbox and you saw something from someone and it just like activated you. You're like, oh my gosh, either it was a really exciting opportunity and you wanted to jump on it right away and you just like immediately emailed them back, or it was something negative and it spiraled you and you immediately went to try and figure it out. That's reactive. Decisions on our calendar are strategy. The things we intentionally block time for, that's us being strategic rather than reactive. What this looks like in action, it's things like schedule planning time, like you schedule client calls. In our free Facebook group, we just had a challenge last week where we talked about this and the idea that you can block an hour to actually plan every single week. You have permission for that, and you want to commit to it like you do your client calls. It's things like having a quarterly review, a monthly review, and weekly priorities. And again, we're going to have that CEO time map that helps give you some tangible pieces of this so you can start building it into your schedule. As solopreneurs, we tend to run on urgency. We're just kind of like scrambling. We're trying to get all of the things done. As we shift into operating as CEOs, we're going to run on priority instead. We're going to know what is our strategy and what our priorities are, and that's what we're going to focus on. Carrie's going to give us some incredible resources and tools to help us make the shift from solopreneur to CEO.
All right. So I know that was a lot of content for some of you. You're going to get the recording and you can watch it over, but don't miss this last part, because today what we've given you is the content. We've given you sort of that framework and the outline, but the fortune is in the follow through. Okay. So it's not enough to know it or to hear it, but here are some tools that we have for you to get this moving. So as of today, I believe at noon today or just shortly after, the 3-day shift challenge launches in our Facebook group, and Cheyenne is going to drop it. It's a free online community. There's hundreds of women in there, and if you want to be a part of it, check it out. It's going to be based on the stop, start, continue model. So dive in. We're going to start this as of today, absolutely free in that free community. We also have launched as of today, some of you might have already noticed, the Solopreneur to CEO Summer Speakers Series. I am super pumped for this series because we've got 5 workshops happening over the summer, and each one of them corresponds to one of the letters in the SHIFT framework. So we have strategy, hiring, infrastructure, finance, and tracking, and we're going to spend 1 hour over the lunch hour with 5 dynamic women. And even if you can't make all 5, you'll get the recording, and it is absolutely key that we keep building out all 5 of these different sessions. So just quick glance, Cheyenne's going to be delivering the session on July 9th about strategy building. Aileen Edwards is going to be talking to us about hiring on July 23rd, and she's got over 30 years of experience in the human resources area. On August 13th, Jade Bazassi from Emotional Intelligence Consulting will be talking to us about designing your business infrastructure. So those systems, those structures. On August 27th, Hadriana, I think she's on the call today. She's going to talk to us about finance. So moving from owner operator to wealth architect. And I love how when we become CEO minded, we start using different language like architecture. What's the structure? How do I build this? And then on September 10th, I'll be wrapping it up with talking about tracking, and super excited to welcome you to that series. So the series cost, if you're a member of the Grow to Lead Network, I sent out an email this morning. Everyone should have gotten it. You have the promo code. So you have the link and the promo code. Cheyenne's going to drop the link right now into the Zoom chat. So it's free if you're a member of the Grow to Lead Network. So go ahead, apply that $50 credit from your membership, and you can get that for free. For non-members, it's actually $10 a session. So So to me, even if you're a non-member, it's a no-brainer. It's $10 to hear those women speak about, again, all of these women are solopreneurs. All right. So absolutely relevant. And so Cheyenne's just dropped the link. If you've got the promo code, apply it. Let's go ahead and sign up. And by the way, here's our fast action bonus that Cheyenne was referring to. If you sign up either as as a member, because you have the bonus, or as a non-member, you're going to get a free CEO time map. And so this is the resource Cheyenne was referring to. It's going to be it's a one pager, so it's not overwhelming. It's what should you be doing annually, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily, in order to set yourself up. And it's a little bit of a checklist, a focuser. Highly recommend. So again, if you apply to just that, if you register for the summer speaker series within the next 24 hours, so before noon tomorrow, then you're going to get that emailed to you. And I would love to hear your feedback on it. For those wondering what the heck is this Grow to Lead Network membership and how much does it cost, there's two levels. You can join for free. That gives you access to our online community, which Cheyenne has already dropped into the Zoom chat. But if you want to be a member that has some of the perks and the privileges, all that is described in the link that she has also dropped with the registration, where you register. You don't have to be in Kingston and the Belleville area to be a part of it. We have women who are joining from a wide range of areas. So please do. We would absolutely love for you to join us. And also, we're happy to talk to you more about it if that's helpful. So that's what we have for today. We are happy to stay longer than the 1 hour to answer questions. I know there's some that have been coming up into the Zoom chat, but that's how you can reach out. growtoleadnetwork@gmail.com. So we're going to shift now into our Q&A. Happy to answer questions you might have about the SHIFT framework, maybe that you might have about any of the things that have been mentioned here today. So I'm going to just stop sharing and hopefully view this a little bit differently. So go ahead and raise your hand, or you can drop a note into the Zoom chat if you have a question that has come up. And I'm just readjusting my view here. There we go. Oh my gosh, now I can see people. All right, if you know where your reaction button is, you can hit it, or you can put a note in the Zoom chat. Now I have full access to the Zoom chat. Don't we love Zoom? So I'm going to go right down. If you mentioned a question way up like 500 messages ago, it may be lost. So go ahead, put it into the Zoom chat again. And if anybody needs those links again, feel free as well. You're all going to get, Leah, you'll get a copy of the, I'm just put this here. Leah, you'll get a copy of the recording, and everyone will get a copy of this after today's session, along with the links. So if you're like, oh my God, I missed the links, you're going to get an email with the links and the recording a little bit later today. All right, if that's helpful. Good question, though.
Bless you for emailing all the stuff. Thank you.
You're so welcome. If you have a question, you want to come off mute, feel free. I just referred to the oh, yes. Thanks, Maxine, for bringing that back. Maxine had a question here. Do we need a business number when you're contracting? She's in the beginning stages of her adventure, knows that employees require a number. Cheyenne, I'll ask you that question. I have an answer. Anybody else can put their comments in the Zoom as well.
I think it's almost like a revenue question. So Vanessa's a bookkeeper. She might be able to answer. As long as you're under 30K, you can operate as self-employed. And then you want to register as a business as you get over top of that. That's how I approached it for sure.
Yeah. Vanessa, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, if you're operating under your own name, you don't have to register for a business number. So that would be with Ontario, if you're in Ontario.
Yeah, we're talking about Ontario and Canada. There might be people outside our region. Let's just be clear about that. Yeah. Okay.
And I was just, oh, sorry, somebody, you finish. I was going to say.
No, you go for it, Rob.
I was going to share a story of being burned on not having registered for a business number when I started freelancing. And I just would say that I would recommend talking to an accountant because I am not one, but I think you want to just consider all of your income and where it might be coming from in your decision about whether or not you should incorporate or not or register. So it's like, if it's a little side thing, yeah, totally. And I don't know. Anyways, whatever. Not an accountant.
Yeah, maybe that's better. I'll explain the situation a little bit better. So
Thanks, Maxine.
I am under 30K. I'm in my first few months. So when I get close, I'm thinking around the 20K mark.
Yeah.
I'm not going to play with, do I need a tax number? Do I need all of these things? I am not going to fool around with that. I'm going to hire Vanessa and do the thing. But in the meantime, I have two adventures I'm building. So AI can do so much. All of these things can do so much. But where a lot of me is doing content, I have the final say of this is the quality I wanted at. But I can get someone to be I don't know if you guys know what a clipper is for B-roll or anything like that. I can hire somebody to do the bare things that I can oversee and have the final say, tweak the final project, and make it the quality that I want to give my clients.
Yeah. And my
That
thoughts
would save me time for contracting that out.
Yeah.
But where it is direct work for my business,
Yeah. No.
I don't want to get in trouble for.
Yeah, and it's you can register as a solopreneur, Maxine. You certainly don't need to incorporate. And I'll just wrap this up by saying that if you want to claim those expenses, right, for your business, I would highly recommend registering your business as a number, because then when you file your income taxes as a solopreneur, again, disclaimer, I'm not a bookkeeper or a chartered accountant, but please, you people who are experts, put your email in there so Maxine might want to reach out with a question. Is when you want to claim those expenses, you also want to have that, very ship shape where you have a business number, you're claiming those expenses, because you could be spending a lot of money that you're not getting back on taxes if you're not structured in that way. So I'm gonna let maybe Vanessa drop her note, or I think April even is on the call, and others. But that's a really smart question. I think we've all been there as well. And I love that when you're approaching that 20,000 mark, that's the time to register your business in Ontario, even if it's as a solopreneur, right? Okay, Joanne, over to you. Thanks for that, Maxine.
First of all, 10 out of 10, guys. Well done to Carrie and Cheyenne on this. I thought it was a fabulous session and lots of good thoughts coming out of it for me. I took pages of notes, as is my MO. I also I paid through my membership just now. When do I get my little discount codes that I can also do the series for the summer? Is that coming by email?
So check your email. I don't know if you saw this morning. I sent out an email that said promo code for summer series, and I did send it to everyone who had indicated on their registration that they wanted to be a paid member, which you did. Maybe even if they haven't paid. So now you're good. So if you can't find that email, let me know. But it should be in your inbox. Check your junk or your spam if you can't see it in the inbox.
Some stuff did go to my junk and spam, but I've shifted.
I know.
So I'll have a look to see if I can find the summer program code. And if
it just went out this morning.
Okay. If not, I'll email you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, just reach out. Anyone who hasn't seen what I'm talking about and you're confused, by all means. Okay, any other questions here? Let me just go down here. Miss Melissa, you have a question here. Is the strategy and data collection empirical, like scientific method? I have a science background, not a business background. I'm trying to relate it to processes I know. So yeah, great question, Melissa. You're so smart. Tracking is like, what are the metrics? So what are your key performance indicators, even determining what are the things you need to track in your business so that you are able to determine at the end of the quarter or at the end of the year if you have succeeded in what you set out to accomplish. So Cheyenne, do you want to add to that? I know that Cheyenne does a lot of work with data and metrics as well. Her question is it scientific and empirical? And I'm saying yes, because it's stuff you can count. It's not like I feel, no. It's not about guessing, it's about growing.
There's definitely a qualitative and a quantitative data that we can collect, but it's all grounded in keeping it as scientific as possible. So to reinforce that, we're getting as logical as we can with our data.
So good point that you just said, qualitative as well. That could be anecdotal, that could be evident, like feedback. That also should be tracked for sure. Sorry, Melissa, I think we're going to continue.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on because, when you're early start, you don't have tons of data to go off of. So you do like SWOT analyses and all these kind of things. You're taking a look at your audience and you have some very like anecdotal type things, early feedback. So I can form hypotheses on these, right? And then pick a few things to collect some data early on and kind of go through that way.
Yeah. Cheyenne, do you want to just I love how you put this as well. Cheyenne has a great podcast. It's called Made for Canada Podcast.
Oh,
You
I
got
know.
to listen to it. The other day she was talking, we should be measuring different things in different growth stage of business. So Melissa, you're talking about, you are an early stage business. Cheyenne, what do you suggest specifically she'd be measuring during that, when she doesn't necessarily have all the sales that maybe others might be measuring?
It's definitely less numbers, and it's more the psychographic profiling that you're trying to get data on initially. So that's things like monitoring the conversations people are asking, the questions that they're sending to you, what they're responding to, the themes of the posts that they respond to. That's the kind of data we have to start with. We don't have as many numbers to go with because of scale and just because of implementation, like you're recognizing. The very first piece that you're looking to get is your product market fit, which is a little more it's a little less tangible. That's the initial set of data. It'll get much more comfortable for your mind as you get further out and get to work with numbers.
True. I like to think of it as what's getting traction. Like the first 2 years is like, what's getting traction? Let's follow, success leaves clues. So let's follow that trail, follow the money trail. Great question. I love that one. I love when people sort of shine a spotlight on things that maybe we said, but we didn't fully explain as well. Any other questions? I know we're slightly over time now, and some of you have to drop off the call. Thank you for sticking with us. Any other questions? And I'll just go to the Zoom chat to see if we've missed anything. Sorry if I'm not seeing them all. I'm not seeing any. Do you see anything, Cheyenne?
There was one from Wendy. She's still on the call. I'm curious how this series might relate to someone in my business. I can email you as well, as it may not be relevant to all. I'm not an agency or looking to become an agency. Good question, Wendy.
Yeah. And so I think that's a primary message that Cheyenne and I wanted to underline as well, is that if you are a company of one and you want to continue being a company of one, welcome, because you are not alone, but we can still scale in different ways without necessarily bringing on a team of 10 or 500. And for some people, that is the goal. What we have found in the circle of women that I suppose respond the most to what we do is that they're often solopreneurs who want to create the lifestyle they want. They are making great money, and also they are creating that business that works for them. Cheyenne, did you want to add to that?
No, I totally agree. I'm a company of one. I have 3 kids to manage. I have zero interest in managing more people in my life. It's about growing in whatever way suits you and your business. That's the beauty of this network that I'm so excited about. Definitely not about forcing ourselves into a business model that doesn't match what we want for ourselves.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'll let Raj just answer. I'll just Angela's question really quick. She's asking if you're a paid member and you use your $50 credit for the summer series, then yes, then that's your credit. But other things will be coming up as well in the future. And so there will be perhaps like live events or some online things, but we will be doing a mixture of free workshops like today, as well as some paid things. And we are working with different sponsors and different funders to keep that reasonable. So we're excited to announce some of those funders very soon. Raj, over to you. Question.
Yeah, I just realized one of the things I love, Carrie, is getting your weekly digest emails. Do you think you're going to keep doing that? And then the other thought I had that I thought would be interesting, I'm happy to help in whatever way to do this. Awesome. But I'd love to know, obviously not now on the call with everybody, this is not a useful way to use people's time. But I'd love to know where people are and see it and what industries their businesses might be in. So I'll send you an email about it, but I have a thought of how I can help do that. But
Okay. Yeah. Reach out by any means. This is the idea of the community. As Cheyenne and I are here, but you can see we were already referring to other people on the call who we know who have areas of expertise. The 5 women we've brought in for the speaker series have areas of expertise as well. To answer your question about the email digest, yes, that we will not be going out exactly the same way. It will be in a newsletter format at least once a month. That is under construction right now. It had been finished, and then technology happened. So, but yes, there will be an ongoing email communication in one form or another. Stay tuned for that to come. Christina, you had a question.
Yeah, just a quick question. So, anything that's going to be happening, the mastermind classes and stuff like that, we'll be getting emails about everything.
Yeah, so there's 2 places I would say. Your email. Now, if my emails from growtoleadnetwork@gmail.com have been going to your junk or your spam, first of all, you need to move me as a contact, because that does happen from time to time. So email is important. Once we get into that email platform, it shouldn't happen as much, but email is a little bit dicey these days. The other place to go is the Facebook group. And Shine, I don't know if you want to drop that link one more time. Christina, you might already. Okay, you might already be in the group. That we will post anything that's coming up today. Later today, we'll post that summer workshop series as well for the rest of the hundreds of women who weren't able to come on the call today. So those right now are the 2 key places in that online community, as well as in the email. And absolutely, we are going to be communicating with you for sure.
Oh, okay, because I'm following the Facebook, but I don't know if I'm in the group. I'll have to check that out.
And thanks for mentioning that. We also have the Facebook page. We also have the LinkedIn group. We also have the Instagram page. So look for Grow to Lead Network on all of those. For those of you who used to be on the WeCan platforms, you'll notice it's already Grow to Lead Network. So you're already there. So, but that's how to find us. Find us on Grow to Lead Network. Okay. Yeah, if you were in the weekend group, you're already in the Grow to Lead Network. But sometimes people can't find it. Just search Grow to Lead Online Community if you can't find it in Facebook. Other questions, comments as we wrap up? I know that you all have things to do today. I would say let it marinate. Don't forget about that fast action bonus as well. We'd love to get you the time map, and we'll be in touch. Reach out if you have questions. Again, Grow to Lead Network @gmail.com. This is just the start, and we cannot wait for what's coming next. So we'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.